Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. So let's set the scene for a minute. It's a very specific date, July 3rd, 2026. Picture this. It's a Friday. U.S. financial markets are completely closed in observance of Independence Day, and literally millions of Americans are hitting the road for a long, well-deserved holiday weekend. On the surface, the whole country feels like it's taking this collective, deep breath. But beneath that quiet exterior, something massive is happening. Okay, let's dive right into this. The juxtaposition we're seeing here is just absolutely fascinating. On one hand, we have a paused financial world and a nation kicking back and taking a break. But on the exact same day, the tech sector and the underlying economy are accelerating faster than ever before. It's this incredibly quiet shift. You see, while the mainstream headlines are all focused on holiday travel traffic, the real story is the relentless, unstoppable momentum of technology quietly building our future while the rest of us fire up the barbecue. So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at a nation on pause. Second, AI infrastructure. Third, the resulting energy squeeze. Fourth, the transformation of work and science. And finally, global resilience. Let's get to it. Section 1. A nation on pause. The holiday snapshot. Let's quickly check the country's baseline as everyone heads into the long weekend. You know, millions are hitting the road, but it isn't all just vacations and sunshine. The summer heat is already putting some serious strain on regional utilities. We've also just received the week's final employment data, which essentially sets our economic baseline for the moment. And yeah, issues like housing affordability, still a major persistent challenge. But the big takeaway here, despite these hurdles, Americans are walking into Independence Day under generally stable economic conditions, with a very real, strong focus on long-term infrastructure investment. All right, which brings us to Section 2, AI infrastructure, from hype to routine. This is essentially the core engine driving the entire 2026 economy. So the crucial point is that in the past, the whole AI narrative was all about wild experimentation, right? Just rapid-fire innovation. But fast forward to our reality in 2026, and it's a completely different ballgame. It's all about execution, reliability, measurable outcomes. Enterprise AI has officially packed its bags and moved out of the experimental lab. Businesses are now prioritizing operational reliability over just playing around with new toys. Execution is, without a doubt, the industry's #1 priority. So where exactly is this execution happening? Well, AI agents are actively moving straight into production environments. Foundation models, they aren't just competing on who's the quote-unquote smartest anymore. They are fiercely battling it out over cost and efficiency. Multimodal AI, systems handling text, voice, and video seamlessly, that's just the standard now. And with AI governance platforms maturing to ensure these systems actually remain compliant, we're seeing sweeping digital modernization across both government and private industry. The technology has, quite literally, just become part of the plumbing. Of course, you can't build all this new digital plumbing without massive amounts of power. So, Section 3, the energy squeeze, powering the AI economy. And this brilliantly illustrates the huge ripple effect playing out right now. It's basically a massive chain reaction. Step 1. Sprawling AI data centers are driving just absolutely incredible long-term electricity demand. That instantly triggers Step 2. Grid resilience suddenly becomes a top-tier national priority, largely because, well, our existing grid just wasn't built for this. Which naturally leads to Step 3, a massive, urgent acceleration in investments toward transmission infrastructure, nuclear energy, and renewables. AI is fundamentally rewriting the playbook on how we plan utilities for decades to come. Utilities are actively scrambling to prepare for this sustained AI-driven demand. Because of that, nuclear energy is suddenly getting some major policy attention. Battery storage deployment is expanding rapidly, and industrial electrification just continues to grow. But crucially, while all this shiny new infrastructure is being planned out, natural gas markets are remaining stable. That's a huge deal because it ensures our energy security is totally maintained while the broader grid modernizes. Now that we've got a handle on the tech and the massive power it requires, let's look at the human element. Section 4, transforming work and science, the new workforce. To really anchor this theme, I want to read you this defining quote directly from the July 3rd morning news brief. The overarching goal across all these sectors is, quote, building the systems, power capacity, and workforce needed for an AI-enabled economy. That right there is the defining mission of 2026. It's a full stack transformation, and our workforce is a massive piece of that puzzle. So, what does this new workforce actually look like? Well, AI skills are hands down among the fastest growing competencies globally. Software developers now heavily rely on AI coding assistants. It's just a standard part of their toolkit now. But hey, don't let the automation fool you. Human oversight remains absolutely essential to enterprise AI. Actually, employers are demanding more measurable productivity improvements than ever, and continuous learning is pretty much the ultimate competitive advantage right now. And this isn't just about office work. Over in the scientific realm, AI is drastically accelerating drug discovery and completely pushing the boundaries of diagnostics. Speaking of diagnostics, this transformation is making massive waves in healthcare too. Medical innovation is advancing steadily, bringing with it broader adoption of AI-assisted diagnostics, some really strong investments in personalized medicine, and a huge expansion in remote patient monitoring. These leaps are absolutely crucial right now because they're keeping progress moving forward despite some pretty serious long-term workforce shortages in the healthcare industry. Finally, let's zoom out a bit to the global backdrop accommodating all this. Section 5. Global resilience, a constructive market sentiment. None of this domestic transformation happens in a vacuum, you know? We're witnessing this really fascinating chain reaction of global stability. Ongoing diplomatic efforts in the Middle East are basically ensuring that commercial shipping through the critical Strait of Hormuz remains totally uninterrupted. That in turn supports highly resilient global supply chains, which ultimately results in relatively stable oil prices. So even with all the ongoing geopolitical uncertainties we hear about, like the war in Ukraine, global trade routes are actually holding remarkably strong. Because of this relatively stable backdrop, market sentiment is incredibly constructive right now. Tech investment is almost entirely lasered in on AI infrastructure. Consequently, semiconductor demand is exceptionally strong, and capital spending across the board is highly concentrated in digital infrastructure. But notice this major shift in investor behavior. Investors are now clearly favoring profitable AI businesses. The days of just throwing buckets of money at a cool idea are totally over. They want actual returns. Meanwhile, as always, Treasury yields remain a key economic indicator that literally everyone is watching closely as we navigate this massive wave of growth. To wrap this all up, if we look at the core themes of this July 3rd explainer, we're essentially looking at a day in the life of an economy defined by three main things: modernization, infrastructure investment, and steady economic expansion. The markets might be taking a day off for Independence Day, sure, but the underlying engines of the 2026 economy, they're running at absolute full speed, seamlessly integrating yesterday's sci-fi concepts into today's routine operational infrastructure. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to ponder. As millions of people are out celebrating the holiday with fireworks and barbecues, the physical and digital foundation for a fully AI-enabled economy is quietly and relentlessly being built all around us. The infrastructure is laying the groundwork. So the real question is, are we ready for what comes next?